let's start this. I'm going to see who we have here. It looks like we have 20 people in the meeting. All right, so let's prepare to begin the meeting. My apologies for the confusion. Everyone has been let in. And okay, this meeting is being recorded. I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. My name's Harry Overstreet, and pardon us for having a little bit of a technical difficulty this morning, a little confusion. So we're going to start off with some welcome introductions. Again, I'm Harry Overstreet, the BART Small Business Support Services Post-Award Project Administrator. I want to thank you for joining us for this morning's webinar, Scheduling 104. Yes. Well, no, are you not in the meeting? I was just starting. Oh. My apologies for the confusion taking that call. So in there, yes. So again, I'm Harry Overstreet. I'm your post-award project administrator, ART Small Business Support Services Program. So I'll be covering this portion of today's agenda. I'll be covering the welcome and introduction. I'll tell you a little bit about our small business support services, a little bit about our scheduling series. This is the fourth in a four-part series covering scheduling at BART. And I'll talk just a little bit about the webinar objectives before I turn it over to our subject matter expert. We ask that you mute yourself to minimize background noise, and you're welcome to keep your camera on. And we ask that you, ask questions. You can either raise your hand or feel free to put your questions into the chat section, and we'll address those questions that come up. So a little bit about the BART Small Business Support Services. We have some excellent pre-award services in addition to our post-award services. So in terms of pre-award, the goal of our program is to help you identify, pursue, and obtain suitable work in BART, help you possibly transition from the private sector to public works, what have you, but we're here to help you pursue work. I'm on the post-award side, where our goal is to help you successfully complete BART construction projects. We understand that there is a number of procedures and processes that are unique to BART that you may not be familiar with as a small business. So we are here provided by BART as a free service to help you understand and navigate the requirements of BART construction contracts. Again, this is the fourth in a four-part series. So all of these webinars are on our YouTube SBSS website. And there is just a ton of great educational information that's available to help you through. We've practically addressed every aspect of BART. But again, and one of the most critical areas, of course, is scheduling. Make a long story short, you cannot get paid without an approved schedule and monthly updates. Critical. So we will move on. And next up, to tell you more about Scheduling 104 and preparing what-if analysis and recovery schedules, because you never know what may happen on your contract to delay you, is our presenter, Michael Elwin.
Good morning. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to this webinar. I'm your presenter. I'm with Imley Corp, and I work with BART on contracts and have been involved about 6 years with BART. Please move forward.
Next slide. Okay.
Our agenda for today, for the webinar is we're going to talk about what if schedule analysis. We're going to get into the introductions, the uses, and the benefits of what if analysis. We're then going to cover recovery schedules as a separate part 2 topic of the webinar. And it's going to talk about its introduction, its uses, and its benefits. And then we're going to talk about any questions or answers. And the 2 topics that are topic discussed today are, for instance, they're not how to do these from the ground up, bottom up, going up. They're from the top down. So they're looking at the car as an example or an analogy. That you're not looking underneath the hood. You're looking at the actual car and what it does in terms of its whole. So that's how we're taking a broad-based perspective look from the outside in on these 2 topics that are important with BART. Please move forward.
Sure. One more. We have a question.
Yes.
Lehman, your hand is up.
Well, it's not so much a question. I just wanted to follow up and to thank both Harry for the introduction, and then of course Michael for what was going to be a fascinating presentation on this additional schedule topic that we've added. And I really appreciate the small business folks who are on the phone who are taking the time out of their schedules to do this. And I work with Michael and Harry, and as we thought through working with OCR on this presentation, the whole idea was, just as Michael said, to give you folks a very good introduction to what if scheduling and recovery schedule analysis, and to at least get you wedded to the idea of some of the ways that it could be used and the benefits of it. And I'm hoping that you take notes, ask questions during the course of the presentation, but most importantly, this was a way to sort of whet everyone's appetite in this topic. And we hope that following this, and Harry will emphasize this at the end again, that this is an entry point, if you will, and folks can take advantage of one-on-one or other ways, as to Michael get deeper into the car, to use his analogy of how to actually apply some of these tools to BART work. So again, thank you, and I'll turn it back over to you, Michael.
Thanks, Lehman.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Okay, so just more about me. I'll be real brief. I'm a senior scheduler with Emily and project controls manager with them, and I have over 20 years experience. As I said, I had 6 years with BART, specializing in Primavera, Oracle Primavera, all of the versions, as well as Microsoft Project and a broad other base of experience that I bring to the scheduling software. And I specialize in monthly reviews, baseline approvals, time impact analyses, project changes, schedule resequencing, recovery schedules, accelerations, and also potential delay analysis and actual concurrent delay analysis. Next slide, please. I have roughly, I think, around $600 million worth of experience in terms of combined project experience. And these are some of the examples that I've worked on. They range from maintenance facilities to ground up warehouses, to power, line and track, 34 kV power installations, as well as other projects that are for patrons of the system related to entry and egress of the canopies on Market Street, as well as renovations for stations. Next slide, please. So our key webinar objectives today are in covering the what if schedule analyses and recovery schedules as the 2 main topics, are discussing their importance and to give you an appreciation of how they're actually come about and formulated and prepared. Our second topic is that how they're important to be functional tools and also contractual obligations that may be asked from the contract if you're a contractor or a small business prime or sub on a contract. And if you're asked to do a recovery schedule, that this will hopefully prepare you more for knowing what to expect and what they're about and how they're formulated. and what their benefits are. So they impact the completion date, and they also provide mitigation strategies for potential delays, as well as they're the MO as far as during a schedule being formulated in the project and the contract as a living life cycle of the schedule. If they come to pass that you need to provide one, or you need to utilize the what if analysis as a tool. The third point would be the options, looking at potential options before an impact occurs, and the flexibility that provides with utilizing one of these as a tool, and the after effects for the recovery schedule about how to utilize and come up with a better recovery schedule in that aspect. The fourth primary objective is to talk about how to bring a schedule back with a recovery schedule. And I'll get into different reasons and opportunities that we can discuss to that point. Forward, please move forward. We're going to talk about some key terms and definitions today, and they kind of coalesce with being a time impact analysis, which in effect is what a what if schedule analysis is. It's just not looking at compensability in terms of the who owes who what, and that's kind of set aside. And a what if schedule is a prospective look at what a potential delay could become. A TIA is potentially turned in as a warning for a contractor that is going to have a delay based on a change from something that came outside of the contract. And it basically is asking for additional contract time on the end date of the project. The what if does not pertain to the actual application of asking for time. It's actually, this is a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month tool to understand how current events are impacting the overall approved schedule updates and the end date later on, once it's going to happen. It has nothing to do with accountability for time. So to start off, the first term is an event, and that's a moment in time that marks the beginning and end of an activity. And that's an important term to think about as we proceed. Fragnet is more related to a TIA, and that relates to a series of sequenced group of activities and a network of activities that are added to a model schedule update where, for instance, if there's a RFI that turns into a CN, it would include the development of that CN. It would include the resolution of the RFI before the CN is issued, and then this change order that happens, and then any after effects of work that's actually related to that change goes into the schedule. So this isn't the actual discussion of how change work is performed and put into a schedule. That's more related to an RFI. An unimpacted schedule is essentially the last update, monthly update that has not been impacted by anything that is known that may be an impact, that the what if schedule analysis is going to take into account and be applied to that last approved update, because that last approved update may not be the most current update that is current to the actual field conditions on the field, which is more described in the 4-week look ahead schedule, which we call the weekly schedule. So that's what the unimpacted schedule is, which is the monthly CPM that's last approved. The impacted schedule is the modifications that are applied through the actual event that is, in definition, the activity in the schedule, and that is changed by either a duration change or a date start change based by other activities driving it out behind it, or I mean, to the left of it, basically as predecessors to it. Next term. Target activity is a task that must be completed on schedule to meet project deadlines. And that's essentially what we change on a what if schedule. Next. The delay is a critical path activity that does not start on time. It may not finish on time, and it's not going to make the durations that it had been set out and estimated upon on the approved baseline or the last monthly update. Let's move forward, please. So this is our first major topic today. We're going to talk about what if schedule analysis, and our first discussion point on this is that it's not a time impact analysis, and there is a difference between the two. The difference between it not being a time impact analysis is the time impact analysis usually has a series of delays that are going to be already in motion and happening, and they may be completely done, but for BART, TIAs are actually asked for before a delay actually happens or it's known, and it's actually showing the later impacts of it, which is an application for that it's going to affect the critical path of the schedule, and the end date is affected by it. Potentially the end date's affected by it if it can't be recovered, which is what leads to a recovery schedule if it is asked for later on. So a what-if analysis is used as a day-to-day tool. It's not something that's submitted informally as a TIA is per the contract in the BART BFS. So it's used as an instrument and a tool. It's one of the most valuable tools in understanding scheduling as to use as a scheduler for both the owner and the small businesses and the prime contractor scheduler. And it's time only, and unless there are impacts for what if, those are usually discussed and sorted out before what if is even focused on that. So what if is not taking into any actual impacts at the time, who owes who what, before the actual impact of what the what if's about. Provides options for project management. So project managers depend on answers from their schedulers because the actual schedule update may not account for more recent events that are happening on the week-to-week or day-to-day basis. And they go to their schedulers for understanding what is going to be the impacts of certain questions. And basically a what if is a tool for mitigating any type of questions that may occur and being able to answer them to your project managers or your stakeholders at BART. The what if analysis provides flexibility for schedule management. You can basically do different types of, you can do Monte Carlo simulation, which is one of the most common types and a broad-based. It's also, there's an ability to understand how procurements are actually delaying out, what effects are going to be on them. And if there's any type of unforeseen site, you can understand how late that critical path is going to become that is on the critical path, or any lesser paths that may end up ultimately becoming and overtaking the other critical path. And so if you have three critical paths, or not three critical paths, but three concurrent paths, say, for instance, there's three canopies in play that are being built at the same time. If one's delayed, you can understand which one to go to next because something may come in earlier than the one that actually needs to be worked on sooner. So you can work on the correct longest path by putting in inputs into the three competitive paths of those concurrent work paths. One of the most important things that what if analysis actually can do is it can manage schedule risk. And the schedule risk is basically not hitting your forecast dates on activities based on something happening, whether it's an RFI or if, I would say, if the contractor's subs are not being able to perform fast enough. So the subs can actually talk to their PM on the contractor side and understand if they're having trouble with getting calcs approved because they can't output enough railings to get put into different stations and staircases. So it's something that can be looked at in advance to understand if there's going to be a bottleneck later on and how to manage it. And it can also lead to descope of work as well. To if there is a delay, that's another option that can be utilized to mitigate risk that's already happened. Next slide, please. And is everybody with me? I just should ask that on the last slide. Is there any questions that I can ask halfway through? I want to make sure everybody's getting all of their answers answered today. And if you guys have any questions, feel free and raise your hand. I'd be happy to ask during the presentation. anyway, going forward, so what are the schedule what if analyses used for? Number one, their identification of a delay that is based on a perceived forecast that's changed from the original approved baseline or the monthly schedule update. Number two, they're used for current modeling of last approved field schedules. And this is the beauty of the what if. It's a beautiful tool. It's so cool because stuff is so dynamic in the past, from the current and the future, from the past approvals, that it allows for adjustability, malleability, and actually spot checking, benchmarking from the actual 4-week look ahead to understand actually where you are when you get asked questions about an update that's either potentially at risk of not being a current update because there may have been not an ability to have current approved updates. So that's where the beauty of the what if schedule analysis comes in. It brings things to the current condition, even though you may have a later approved schedule that isn't most up to date with the current data date and the future work to the current data date for the month that you're speaking to. The fourth bullet is actually the third bullet allows for potential opportunities to adjust for, I just discussed that. The fourth bullet used to explore and compare various plan and schedule alternatives. So you can put various, as a project manager on your project, you're following the CPM schedule, which is basically the critical path management of what project management schedule software you're utilizing. And if you have a current question on specific areas of scope or activities and fragnets that are in your schedule, they could be secondary paths or paths that are not even on the critical path, and you want to see and you think that they're going to be delayed or pushed out, you can put different types of alternative analyses by putting 3 different analyses in on a current path that you don't know which is the best one. So you would actually, they all may take different amounts of time. They may be different means and methods of how you want to do the changes. And you may want to basically do 2 phases at the same time instead of 2 that are linear, one at a time, one after another, finish to start. So if you combine 2 phases because it's an easier way to do it and you can get them done more efficiently, that could be an alternative strategy. And that's been used on current projects that I've been involved with civil work. The fourth use of the analysis is it can be used to measure risk, and that's inherently extremely important at BART because there's always never everything defined in a contract once it's issued. There's constant RFIs and changes that come in, and certain areas of work, whether it be trying to get highly critical material that has a high risk of not hitting the date that it's going to come in on, impacts the prior precedent work that's going on concurrently while that procurement's going on. So you can actually mitigate maybe and expect that procurement for that material is going to come in at a later time, so you can get work done before that work comes in that ordinarily would have come in after that. So that's another way to prioritize your work in terms of any type of known bottleneck that isn't meeting your schedule that was expected from the original expectations. Next slide, please. This is an example of a design to an approval for a procurement for handrails for an internal BART station. And what happened here was the long blue activity closest to that vertical blue data date line was expected to get done much sooner. And what had happened was the predecessor activity before it was a review of the second review, the 61.1 calcs and metal shop drawings for resubmittal. And then what had happened was we reviewed it faster, much faster, because BART reviews are 30 days long. And the resubmittal, the long blue line to the left of the vertical line, is the contractor's resubmittal. So it actually came in, took longer because what had happened was there was an RFI on that submittal, and that submittal actually ended up ultimately not ever getting approved. It got abandoned. But what this showed was where the work for the subsequent successor submittal, the review for the green one, the first green activity across the data line, would have started based on if all of that material, as far as the RFI and the known approvability of that shop drawing, could have happened. So this was a spot check for the RE and the project manager for BART that we performed to understand the impacts leading from the internal rail installations that show that last blue or the last green procurement line for the metal rails and finishes. So there were about 4 handrails. They ultimately got de-scoped, but this gave an appreciation that we knew we had to abandon some of these and mitigate it by de-scoping them because there was not a workaround that could ultimately be done in time. So this got surgically removed from the schedule ultimately, or ignored, and then other paths took precedent and became subsequent to this as becoming a longer critical path leading into Lafayette. So we ended up mitigating it in that regard. Next, is there any questions to this? Does everybody understand what we're talking to? I'm going really fast, so I want to make sure everybody, if they have a question, don't be afraid to ask. I'm happy to talk further to your question.
And if I may add, feel free to put your questions into the chat, and we can, we'll pull your questions up from there also.
Next slide, please. Second exhibit here is for an actual construction delay. And this leads from Castro Valley External Station, which is a scope that actually entailed concrete striping, new sidewalks for ADA. And what had happened was we found some conduit that was actually under the replacement sidewalk that got torn out and then was supposed to be repoured and renewed. And so the RFI ended up becoming a difficulty to resolve based on acquiring the material to fix the conduit that was actually not seen. It was an unforeseen site condition. It was not known that it was there, but it got hit. So they had to do a repair. What had happened was the estimate date was put in on the target activity, which is the CV tile 160 activity, the long activity that got originally, it was supposed to be 1 day long. So we added, I think, 26 days to it from September 30th to November 4th to mimic the actual repair that would have taken to get that area completed and lead to the next location for the exterior work of that area. This ultimately ended up getting done on time, and it came back to November 20th with actually, I think, actually I take that back. It actually came back 6 days, and we still issued a substantial complete on time per the original contract. So it turned into being some punch list work or closeout work that we gave a limited issue of substantial completion to. So this was something that we worked with the contractor to mitigate, and under good partnering together with the contractor, this was actually did not turn into a time impact analysis and that kind of thing, and a concurrent delay analysis to understand who was compensable for time or anything. There was no compensability. It was just a time issuance with a, is there any questions? Next slide, please.
So Michael, you say that was a non-compensable time impact, is that correct?
Yeah, because the contractor still wanted us to issue them a substantial complete on the LD milestone date because they knew that there had actually not on that specific work, there were other CNs that we issued them, but they felt that they were made whole and that there was no delay. So, yes. Benefits from what-if analysis. It's evaluation for the project team, all actors on the team between either the sponsor, the owner, the contractor, whether it be the small business SBSS contractor and the SBSS subs, the SBSS suppliers, it's understanding that you do have tools at your disposal through your scheduler, and you can utilize them to the fullest from your project managers and your owners to get answers for any of your questions as it relates to any of the work and the scope from the contract that's approved in your baseline and in your monthly updates. It allows you to have better informed decisions and actions to take proactively or respond to if they have come up in an after matter look at how to maybe mitigate and how to move forward without waiting too long before they fester into something that ends up having to become a TIE and a big delay. So it basically can be a mitigation tool to having future delays. And that's the beauty of it. It provides improved project predictability, and that's the greatest thing, because there's never an indication of whether you're going to turn in a schedule when you want your pay app. It may have been delayed by the owner, scheduler, or CM team not providing a review back soon enough. I'm guilty of that. I've done that a few times, but I haven't done it and waited too long. But anyway. But anyways, yeah. So are there any questions to these points? And I'll get into the fourth one. I just wanted to ask. Okay. And then last but not least, the analysis of simple and complex factors. So if you have different areas that are similar in your schedule and they're on different areas of work, but they're the same scope of work, and it's going to apply to all of those scopes of work, you may want to put the what if analysis on each of those areas, and they may be happening at different times. It may be shortening or lengthening activities that you think actually don't take as long. So it may be showing that the entire work front of 4 concurrent or semi-concurrent paths are going to be being pulled back or pushed out. And it can even basically show, yeah, like I said, you can show that you're going to be finishing it faster and by itself without actually having those existing crews on those 4 areas. So some of those crews and resources can be shifted to some areas, other areas of work. And that was on those examples that I showed. We had a sub called OBS that was on 3 different areas of work. And toward the end of the project, what if analyses become really critical, because different work fronts move at different speeds and they don't always go according to what they were projected to be forecasted at. So when you finish certain areas that are non-critical faster, you can pull resources onto more critical, longer path or project LD type of work and try to get it done quicker as a goal for the entire team. Next slide, please. Okay, this is our second topic, major topic today, and this is a BART BFS option that is in the BART contract for all BART projects, and it's in every construction project that I know of that I've been on, even outside of BART. The sponsor, the owner, would normally, or the RE would ask based on either a series of prior delays that have been in the schedule, that if you are asked because you're way behind to try to get a recovery schedule issued and formulated and developed to understand and show how you can pull back and gain more time to finish all of the scope of the contract in a more timely manner. And this happens, almost all schedules, 60% of them usually are not done on time. So it's not uncommon, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the way that the world of construction scheduling is. There's always a delay, mainly. And it's very rare that there's a schedule that's always on schedule. So there's no perfection. But what this does is it basically, and I've covered the first 2 points, but it assists in a change in the project status and progress that forecast a late completion. Should the RE or owner decide that a project is behind schedule, there may be a request for a recovery schedule. And recovery schedules are required under most contracts, and it's an important planning tool and vital medium of communication from the contractor to the owner about changes to be made to the schedule to bring the forecast for completion back to an on-time status, or at least acceptable basis. This example that I wanted to share with this is one of the biggest projects that BART ever built. It's the TBT tunnel. So back prior to COVID coming on, I moved on from a couple of projects because I was asked to join to that project to help as a scheduler. And we ended up coming in and understanding that there had been a lot of redesign. My company joined in, and there was a lot of money spent on getting the correct design to put in place retrofit panels inside the TBT tunnel. So the project was behind on cost. It was also behind on schedule because COVID hit and we didn't know quite what that meant, but all of our material came from China. So basically the provider and the furnishment of all the steel that lined the retrofit of the tunnel ended up getting held up on shipping because it wasn't being provided to the ships fast enough, and the factories ended up not being able to meet that demand, as well as a lot of stuff was shutting down because of the crisis of the COVID crisis. So that basically was a force majeure on the project. We ended up recognizing that, and proactively, the owner ended up wanting to come back in time because it would have taken too long to draw the project out and wait until all that material came in and also finish all that scope. So what happened was we de-scoped some of the work, and they only retrofitted certain areas of the transbay tube. So that was the panels that had already come in, the steel panels. And it was also, its function as a major plumbing emergency project if there is a crack in the tube for an earthquake retrofits, that the water could be pumped out in time. So we ended up leaving that in the schedule and replacing all the pumps and installing the retrofit just in specific primary important areas. And that came back about 11 months, and I was part of that de-scope effort. So that's a recovery schedule. That was done internally by the owner, and also then bought off on by the contractor at the time that ended up, following that. So that's a recovery schedule. Next slide, please. So the major uses for this recovery schedule are that it helps the teams evaluate, amend, and pull through a delay. The development and getting all of the entire team on board is usually highly sought because the team has been struggling to understand how they're going to meet the end date of the project and the schedule leading up to the recovery schedule. So it's already known that the schedule is a mute tool. And what it does is it provides a framework and a legal document of how are we going to finish the work that we want to accomplish, given the fact that we may have had to alter some of the contract or change some of it, either through change notices or modifications or de-scope of work. And we can basically get back to a date that we all agreed to that is a doable date and a meaningful date to target and to finish with value affiliated with it. Number 2, provides renewed coordination if conflicts across trades occur and overlapping laydown areas. So the other benefit of a recovery schedule is it can be done in not a global framework, but a specific framework of while the contract schedule is approved, it doesn't have to alter the end date. It could alter potentially another section of the work that may not impact the end date because it benefits the trades that are working on it to actually have full functionality and ability to progress the work that's happening. And if there was one, another, I would say another issue, say it was UPR rail, and it was there were some repairs being done on UPR, but it was affecting access on the BART parallel line in terms of an issue of getting in and doing changes to any type of build out of the work on the rail that or installing any civil work and putting new rail in that you want to have no cross contamination between other contractors on laydown areas. And that's also true with other BART contractors on specific areas, say specifically as an example could be Market Street, where we have a contract that's putting in a new substation on 2 of the stations that we have other work going on as well with canopy construction. Okay, the third important aspect of recovery scheduling is it assists in areas where project's gone off track for whatever reason. So I think I've touched on that. If anybody has questions or would like another example, I'm happy to give further examples to that if anybody has a question. No, okay. Okay, and fourth, the project may need to have a descope based on the delay of fabrication or financial overrun on design or rework and necessitate a recovery schedule. I gave you that example on the last slide for the TBD tunnel. That was a classic example of all of that bullet. Next slide, please. Benefits of recovery schedules. To recap, that helps in the recovery of lost time. It provides a more realistic time to finish on time, which is in everyone's interest. It provides risk mitigation and contingency is realized for parties to be on time. So I think I had mentioned a Monte Carlo simulation. This is actually an opportunity to put more contingencies at different points in the schedule. If you have an opportunity to understand that you need that after a baseline has been done and it wasn't exactly on target and it didn't account for enough risk, because risk is understood during and while the project is happening, more so than actually at the beginning of the project before it starts. So it's a great tool in that regard to actually understand more risk and contingency if it hasn't been approved from the initial onset once you start an NTP schedule. Fourth, it adds morale to the project team and sponsors and the contractors and the subs and the SBSS suppliers and contractors. Fifth one is it renews the plan to complete the project assuming consumed times and costs are set aside. So not taking into any cost or time that has been already figured out in terms of anybody that owes anybody anything. It looks at that in that angle. And six, it provides efficiency, the progression and completion of work that weren't priorly understood as part of their last updates. Next slide, please. Key takeaways today are a what-if schedule analysis is an invaluable tool to have in scheduling for the construction managers, the project managers, the small business contractors and vendors, and prime contractors, or all contractors. Number two, understanding the importance of a recovery schedules or of the recovery schedule or schedules at BART and how they help your contracts is very important. Number three, free one-on-one technical assistance and scheduling is available with SBSS. And if there's any need to reach out, please make it known. That's it. Any questions? Oh, so this capstone is the last webinar in our series that we've had of the 4-part series from 101, 102, 103. And there's availability of these for exposure if you wanted to go back and trace any of these past presentations at the YouTube website that SBSS has. And it's www.youtube.com/BART-SBSS. And I encourage you to go in there. And there's other presentations as well that have been done in the past. So it's a very, very insightful look into what's required at BART for different contracts. Thanks.
Jim, so I wanted to briefly show our YouTube page. This is where we have where we store all of our webinars, and there's a ton of great information on this website. So I just want to share that with you, and moving forward.
I see there was a hand raised, Harry.
Okay.
Yeah, my question was about the videos on the YouTube, but I think you just answered it. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
great.
All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I thought the transition to the page might be a little bit smoother. Uh, but absolutely. And what I can do is I will put this link into our chat because we have covered practically every aspect of the contracting process. We're really thankful to have the great schedulers from Emily. Michael works with the Emily Corporation that has just done a ton of BART work. And so we appreciate Michael's expertise and that of his, company in helping us put this together.
And thank Michael. Yeah, thank you, Michael, so much for that presentation. And just for those who are on the line, we will send out a survey. Love your input on ideas, suggestions, input on other topics you'd like to have discussed by subject matter experts like Michael. I had noticed there was a question from Luis, who's another project manager at BART. I saw Vanessa Young, who again has great experience working and managing BART projects. So we'd love any of your input and then your ideas about other topics that we could bring some of that expertise to support your post-award work and help you be more successful doing BART projects.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We are here, and just to echo, we are here to address whatever question you have. So as a post-award administrator, my contact information is in the chats. Feel free to ask any question. Even if it's beyond the scope of our project, we can refer that question to the appropriate people within the Office of Civil Rights. So our contacts. So we are here to help and help foster communication. Help you succeed. And with that, we are into our question and answers.
I just wanted to ask a question to the audience I had. Are there any future topics from your interests that you guys would like us to try to narrow in on future potential presentations that may be able to provide you a benefit? If anybody has any suggestions or maybe later on, not at the moment, I would be very interested in understanding what type of focus areas you may be in need of any assistance on as a future potential resource to provide assistance on. If anybody ever needs anything, feel free to reach out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that is our last slide. It's very quiet out there. We appreciate everybody who has joined us this morning. Is there any comments or we've asked for questions numerous times, or statements, comments, anything?
I saw a comment that there was another scheduling consultant out there. Are you still on the line? It was a body.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Did this provide some insights into how BART, just a question in terms of some of the expectation on the topics? Did you find that insightful?
Yes, and I'm providing currently the same services for the Los Angeles Metro.
Oh, wow.
Line. Yeah, we do, TIAs for various delay issues that we are dealing with. Just wondering how can I provide my services for the BART and the contractors or on the business or on the BART side.
Okay, I see.
Well, if I could jump in, and maybe try and address that question, that I think that your services fall under professional services.
Yes.
Absolutely. And so we do have a contact within the Office of Civil Rights that we could refer you to that handles our professional services in general. We do have pre-award services, but they are tailored, specifically for construction companies. So, but we'd be happy to take your information and refer you to the agreement compliance unit within BART, and they handle professional services and might be able to, direct you in a direction where you can, pursue work.
Yes, thank you. Yes, by the way, we are a small business as well.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, please, put your information into the chat, and I'd be happy to forward that over to the Office of Civil Rights, the Agreement Compliance Unit.
Thank you. Sure, I will.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else? Any other questions, comments, statements? We absolutely appreciate you joining us this morning. We will follow up with the survey and links to the website information. And with that, I think we will conclude this morning's webinar.
Yeah, Harry, I just want to say good presentation and good series. Thank you to Michael and his team and everybody involved in this. Thank you.
Okay,
Have a good day.
thank you,
Stay-
Luis.
Stay
Thank you,
dry.
Luis.
Absolutely, we appreciate your support.
Today's an inclement weather day.
Yes, absolutely.
Take care.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that that concludes it.
I just
Yes.
wanted to thank this Harry and Lehman, you both, and Luis. Thank you for your assistance with working together on this. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to continuing future presentations, providing support for us. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks everyone for
guys.
attending.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Stay dry. Avoid the cyclone bomb. All that kind of good stuff. Whatever that was, almost. So, thank
Stay
you.
safe.
Drive
Yeah.
safe.
Happy holidays. They coming out.